Okay, perfect. Great. Let's get this started. I know there are lots of people eagerly waiting to see the drones in operation. Before we do the actual field trials and the display of the drone, I'd love to introduce all of you to GRIP and then to AUS, and then hand over to Shashank for actually doing the demonstration. First of all, a very warm welcome. Thank you for taking time on a Saturday afternoon to log into this session and understand more about what GRIP is doing, what AUS is doing, and how we're jointly trying to change the way both finance for assets like drones is provided and the drone industry and the impact it has on our economy. As most of you are aware, GRIP is an alternative investment platform. We started our journey almost 2 years ago. The basic idea around the business was to create investment options that have till now not been accessible to common individuals or investors. The top 0.1% of Indians, the richest of the rich, have always had certain options to invest outside of stock markets and fixed deposits, but their options have been incredibly limited when it comes to a broader set of the population. We believed that there was an appetite and interest for everyone to try allocating some of their capital or diversifying their capital into such investment options. At the same time, there were companies like AUS, which were changing the way businesses are being built, value is being created, and these companies were looking for a very different form of capital. GRIP acts as a platform in the middle to create a connection between investors such as yourself and companies like AUS. Over the last 18 months that GRIP has been in operation, we have enabled close to 200 crores in investments from close to 10,000 investors. That capital has gone towards leasing assets, providing inventory finance, and the most recent addition to our investment products, startup equity, to nearly 70 different companies. These companies have gone on to generate billions of dollars in revenue, raise about $500 million in equity capital in just the last year, and most importantly, ensure that there is a timely repayment of returns across all of our transactions to our investors. I think what gives us the most highest level of satisfaction is the ability to power businesses like AUS. Vipul and I'll spend some time talking about what are the challenges for the financing industry and drone and how we're addressing it. But maybe Vipul, welcome to this. We've had you on these sessions before, but this one is a little different where we're also going to do a live demo. Would love for you to just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about AUS, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Thanks a lot, Nikhil, for giving us the opportunity to present ourselves and also demonstrate our field activities. And thanks a lot to everyone who has attended, who is attending this session on a Saturday afternoon. So before we jump into the demonstration and join the team, which is right now stationed or operating in Maharashtra, and our team member Shashank has joined us from Satara district in Maharashtra to showcase how we are basically catering to one of the most prestigious and the largest project when it comes to uses of drones for masses in the entire world, called the Swamitwa scheme, which is very close to our PM's heart as well. I'd like to give you all a little bit of flavor about what AUS is doing and what we have been able to build over a period of time, what kind of problems we solve. So I'll share a slide in order to take our discussion forward and then discuss where the market is, give a little bit idea about the market of the drones and how we are trying to solve some difficult problems when it comes to this market. So as a company, we are an end-to-end solution platform company, which is basically providing business intelligence to multiple enterprises in different sectors. Some of the use cases of the drones, just to give you an idea before I jump into more about AUS, which are prevalent in the market globally, are use cases in the industries like oil, gas, and mining. Drones are also being actively used for industries and sectors of power plants or energy. They are also being used for precision agricultural applications where farmers and companies which are into agricultural businesses are using drones effectively to improve their yield, also decrease their investments into the farming activity. Drones have been conventionally being used, or I would say the first adoption of drones in the entire world happened in the public safety and security, where drones are being used for border patrolling, to do surveillance and even do traffic management and a lot of other activities when it comes to the safety and security of the public. On the other side, drones have been also used and are being used for a lot of live events. Many of you would be watching the aerial views of IPL matches. They are also being captured by drones. So these are some of the sectors which are already matured when it comes to uses of drones. And there are other sectors which are also emerging where the drones are being seen to be used for applications like logistics and delivery of goods, as well as even drone taxis where people will be flying in these drones from one point to the other point to avoid traffic. So when it comes to the overall market of the drone, the earlier concentration of the market was purely towards the developed countries, especially the Americas. But over a period of time, the adoption of drones have significantly increased in the Southeast Asian market, where India itself has become a very, very dominant market over the last 2.5 to 3 years. And right now, compared to any other part of the world, this single country, India itself, is expected to contribute about 4.4 billion, which is 10% of the overall global market until 2024. Reason being that we have a lot of problems, huge population, and most of the use cases which are concerned with drones here deals with the rural population. And that's where the demand is very high. And that is where we are also positioning ourselves to create solutions for the 1 to 1.2 billion people living in this country. So while we understand the potential of the market and also developing the technology and the processes which are required to scale up, there is also a good recognition which the government of India has given over the last 1.5 years to boost this sector. And in that process, to enable Indian companies and to enhance the domestic companies' capability to tap into this market, unlike many other sectors where generally foreign companies grab the highest share of the market, the government has also created a lot of schemes and policies to enable this ecosystem. So just a glimpse of various policies and schemes which have been announced by the government. In the August 21, the government announced the dedicated rules for drones. In that rule, one of the key aspects is that they have opened up more than 80% of India's airspace for drone operations. Believe me, none other country in the entire world has so much of percentage of their airspace and landmass open for drone operations. India being such a complex country, still the government took that bold step, realizing the advantage this technology can deliver to the people. Now, to boost the manufacturing of drone in India and to ensure that the Indian manufacturers like us can compete with the global counterparts, the government also announced the performance-linked incentive to incentivize the manufacturing of drones in India. Earlier, the aerial spraying of chemicals, especially on the crops, were totally banned. Now, about 3 months back, the government basically authorized the uses of chemicals through aerial spraying method, but only using drones. So one cannot use manned aircrafts and helicopters to spray chemicals, but they can use drones. And this is becoming one of the largest use cases which the government is also promoting right now, apart from the use cases like Swamitwa. So followed by this approval of using drones for pesticide spraying, government also declared some grants and up to 75% subsidy for procurement of drones for agricultural uses. So anyone, any small entrepreneur or a small custom hiring center can go and take benefit of this subsidy and reduce the cost of acquisition of a drone by 75%. Now, to make sure that these benefits are realized at the highest potential by the Indian companies, recently, about 15 days back, the government of India also banned the import of completely assembled drones, knockdown kits or semi-knockdown kits, but parallelly also delicensed the whole process of importing components which are required for manufacturing the drones in India, which means that there is an unfair advantage which is available for anyone who's trying to develop and manufacture drone within India for the Indian market. And that's where we are also trying to position ourselves and also make sure that we take the maximum benefit of the push which the government is giving to this sector. Now, coming to us as a company, a quick glimpse. We are the leaders in the space when it comes to the commercial applications of drone with respect to our experience, the market share, as well as the use cases which we have solved. As a company, we have covered more than 50 lakh acres of area for different applications of drone in surveying and mapping. We have mapped more than 200 open cast mines for private and public enterprises. We have covered more than 250 stockyards for various power plants and metal plants when it comes to the conglomerates in India. And we have mapped more than 35 cities in India with respect to urban planning, property taxation, or even smart city design related activities. So with this, we are also one of the fastest growing companies in the sector. We have been growing at about 250% year on year in our revenues. And we are also the only profitable company in this market as of now. While we have been doing all the focus on technology development and business development, we have also formulated and being vital in making these or suggesting these policy changes to the government as the founding member of the Drone Federation of India, which is the primary body representing the entire drone ecosystem in India. So we enjoy our relationship with very known conglomerates like Tata Steel, Aditya Birla Group, Vedanta, Adani, and many public sector organizations as well, like the Coal India, the NTPC, the Survey of India, which is a Department of Science and Technology organization. And with the contributions which we have made to the market, with the technology we have and the growth we have been able to demonstrate, we are also supported by some of the known deep tech venture capital investors in the sector. So these are some of the sectors which we serve today, mining, metal, power being one, infra being another, urban and rural planning being the third, as well as precision farming, where we are entering, we started entering just now. So what we do basically with these drones and what we are trying to establish here, so we were the pioneers of this technology. We started our journey in 2013 when no one knew that drone will be used for commercial applications. No one ever envisaged that drones can solve centuries old India's problems. So this is our focus. We focus on collecting very detailed data set, which are very, very accurate in their characteristics and also relevant to the use case. So we also do a lot of data analytics. Our primary goal is to replace one of these three existing techniques of serving these industries. Let it be satellite maps, data collected by manned aircrafts, or even data being collected by manual surveys. You would have seen that if there is any construction going on, there are a lot of surveyors which roam around with a tripod kind of instrument all around. It's a very cumbersome activity, has a lot of scope for error because of manual intervention. That's what we are replacing using drones and providing a much higher resolution data. So for example, the best satellite data one can get is, let's say 30 centimeter per pixel in resolution. We replace that with a 2 centimeter resolution, which is almost, I would say, 15 times higher resolution than the best satellite data available in the market globally. And then because we have high accuracy also in this data, we extract a lot of details from this data which are relevant for these use cases. So as a company, we don't only manufacture drones, we have a complete end-to-end solution bundle. While we manufacture drones, we also have a robust set of software tools around the drone, which allows the drones to be, the flights to be made, plans to be made for the flights in a very efficient manner. Then the data to be processed on cloud as well as analyzed on cloud so that the right information can be extracted for these enterprises. So our primary goal is to create two benefits for our target customers, let it be government or the private enterprises, is that their time to realize the value of this technology should be reduced. No one has to wait for a very long time to understand how this technology works, so that everything is delivered in a single package, and then make sure that it becomes an efficient, sustainable and scalable solution for them so that they can have higher ambition and bigger scale of uses for the drones in their businesses. So there are various elements of the solution in our business. One of the elements is the software, which is again a proprietary software being used to do the flight planning of the drone. Then the important element, the most important element, and that's where our USP lies, is the drone itself. It's a survey grade drone, fully autonomous, unlike the drone you all would have seen in various events and weddings, which are being piloted by some pilot with a remote control. These drones are fully autonomous. Anyone like you and me can get trained within a week's time and can operate this by using a normal tablet or a laptop. There is no piloting required as such. And this drone has been made for primarily surveying and mapping applications to serve the industries which we are targeting right now. And this is the drone which has been also used for the applications of land records mapping, which is going on across the country. So just to also give you an idea, this was the first drone to be also certified by the government of India under its new set of standards and policies. So while we are making good technology, we are also making it the fastest pace in the market right now. So then the third element and the other important element of our solution is the cloud platform, where all the data gets processed, analyzed and reported so that the benefit of data can be distributed across the enterprise and everyone can realize the use of the data and the potential of the data without depending on only a few set of people. So just to give you an idea about the case study, we serve various use cases for when it comes to applications in mining metal, where we help them conduct inventory assessment, improve their efficiency, do their process monitoring, and also improve and conduct the safety assessment for the safety around their businesses when it comes to such industries. Now, moving quickly to the Swamitwa project, where we have highest share. So this is the scheme launched by the government of India in order to basically add a lot of wealth.
Well, if I can just interject, before you go into this particular scheme that the government has, just drawing a context to how GRIP and AUS work together and why it makes sense for your business, because I think a lot of users will have that question. What is interesting is that a lot of your clients, which are Tata Steel and equivalent, don't actually want to buy the drones. Is that understanding correct? They want to engage with AUS as a full stack service provider. Could you just throw some more light on that, please?
Absolutely, Nikhil. A very valid question. See, any of these enterprises, for them, if there is a lot of learning involved in, let's say, understanding a new technology and operating it, and then there are, let's say, regulatory obligations also, their speed to adopt a technology and scale with it reduces. So, and then for them, it is important to get the end outcome, which is those reports and intelligence which they need for improving their business. So compared to buying a drone and operating it themselves and then learning everything, managing all the regulatory requirements, they prefer engaging an end-to-end package with a player like us, where the responsibility of drone operations and also collecting data on a timely manner with right integrity is not on them, but it is with the people who has the subject matter expertise. So that way the impact of the solution is delivered almost immediately. And that is why they engage us for a very long-term period. For example, our engagements with companies like Hindalco and Tata Steel have been since the last 2.5 to 3 years. And then we have commitments for another 3 years with them. And these are businesses, when they realize the potential of the technology, it becomes conventional part of their business. So now we have become a conventional part of their business where a lot of their decision making around supply chain, inventory management, safety assessment, and many other KPIs are now driven through the data which we deliver to them or the reports which we deliver to them. So they also want that someone should understand their business and enhance the solution offering, which is difficult for them because they may know their requirement, but they cannot improve the technology further. So that is another benefit which comes over a long period of time. When we engage with them, we understand what more they need and keep building that layers of solution into our existing solution so that every time we are a better version of what we were earlier. So that way they also realize the potential of having a long-term engagement with us.
Understood. And I think that's really interesting because we get this question a lot, right? We get a question, why wasn't Tata Steel buy the drone itself? Because Tata Steel has immense amount of capital, but what they're buying or what they're engaging with you is not just for the drone, but is for the software that comes, which is constantly being upgraded. The techniques and the expertise that comes in operating the drone and all the intelligence that they're able to then utilize for their business decision making in a simple monthly subscription or as a project payment that they have to do with you.
Correct. I think the world is moving towards that direction. I think at a personal level also we prefer SaaS models over buying software licenses and putting them into some fixed machines. On the other hand, we prefer leasing cars rather than now buying them upfront because the hassle of ownership and then management of the asset reduces a lot. So same is the case with the enterprises as well. So they don't want to have the hassle, but they rather want to realize the value immediately. That's what gets delivered through, we call it drone as a service model.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Vipul, for that context. Please go ahead, and I'd love for having participants put in their questions either in the chat box or the Q&A box, and I'll keep picking it up and posing it to Vipul.
Okay. So going forward, I would like to give a little bit glimpse about the Swamitva scheme. It's one of the unique schemes in the entire world. So if you look at the country, we have 70 to 80% of our population living in the rural areas, and they own assets which are generally lands, either a residential plot or the agricultural plot. And if we look at the overall net worth of the entire asset owned by the rural population is much higher than the net worth of the asset which are being owned by the urban population in India. Because we are just 20 to 30% people and most of our assets are on EMI. We don't own it. We are still trying to own it over a period of 20 years, right? But on the rural side, these are properties which they have accumulated over a period of multiple generations, right? But the issue is that most of these properties are not well documented, not well recorded. Hence, this wealth cannot be used to get cash liquidity in their life. And because of that cash liquidity, they are always entrapped into a vicious cycle of poverty, which we feel because of the existing financial ecosystem, they are more poor than people who are having credit card and no asset, right? So this is where the government comes in, and they're trying to solve the problem of recognizing their asset and bringing it into a proper undisputable record, which can be recognized by financial institutions and can also resolve the disputes which many times hold these assets for decades within the family. So why land records and why drones to be used here? So earlier government tried to solve this problem by conventional methods. From last 2 decades they were trying, and they couldn't succeed because of the sheer disadvantages which are there in the speed at which the data is collected through conventional methods, the accuracy which can be delivered, the scope of errors which are there because of a lot of manual activity involved. And India being a large country, you start from one point and reach the other point by the time everything changes. So some 2.5 years back, people like us went to government, demonstrated that this is a technology which can solve this problem, and in less than 5 years, and can really bring 1 billion people into the mainstream financial ecosystem and create the $1 trillion economy which we are envisaging to achieve over the next 5 years. So with a series of validations and pilots, the government ultimately ended up concluding that this is a technology which can solve this problem, and created the Swamitwa scheme, which is about mapping all the villages in the country, 6.6 lakh villages in the country, using drones. So just to give you an idea about what is this problem all about, look at this map. This is the map of a particular village in a country. Okay. Now in this map, the center portion, which is the patch which you see shaded, is the patch where people live. So most of the land which is marked are, let's say, 50 years old markings which have been made about their land. But there is no recognition of the plots which they own in that center gray patch. So hence there is no record for it. And hence you cannot use that land you cannot mortgage that land. And in India, agricultural plot cannot be mortgaged. Only a residential plot can be mortgaged. So it's a chicken egg problem for them. Now, if you look at the satellite map for the same area, if we take up the boundary, you'll see that if we overlay the earlier map which we were showing, which exists in government records, we'll see that this whole patch is blank. And a lot of these houses have already gone outside those boundaries which were created a couple of decades back. Expansion of the area has happened, but there is no record of it in the government records. So a banker will never recognize this. So this is the problem which the government is trying to solve, and has already executed this for more than 90,000 villages out of those 6.6 in the last 1.5 years. So the idea is to bring the financial stability in the rural population by recognizing their asset, create accurate land records, and use that to also improvise the property tax and make sure that people are able to use these assets and their ownership records to get benefit of the financial ecosystem. And when we have this kind of the data existing, we also know what is the actual situation of a village. So the focus of development would improve. The precision of plans which are created for the development of villages improved, and naturally the overall GDP improves for that particular rural area and that district. And hence, and also as one of the other benefits, the lot of property disputes which occur in these areas also get resolved, because now you have clear demarcation of your boundaries and ownership. Okay. So government is right now doing it for the entire country, I would say. So we are at the forefront of this entire scheme as the think tanks and also people who created this technology for the first time in India back in 2013. We started our journey with very small project with Government of India, but now we have close to 100 contracts worth close to 120 drones to be deployed. Or right now we have more than 80 drones which are operating in different states across the country. And we have already mapped 11,000 villages up to date, and there are many more which are being mapped on a daily basis. So we were the first agency in the entire country to be awarded this contract for the state of Uttarakhand, which we have already finished. And with the success of this particular scheme, the Swamitwa scheme, which covers, let's say, about 80,000 square kilometers of area, if we calculate the cumulative area of these villages, government has already become very ambitious and now decided that even the agricultural plots will be mapped using the same technology and same approach, which means that another 20 lakh square kilometers of use case has emerged in the market all of a sudden over the last 6 months. So in that process, the first state which was chosen to be mapped was Haryana, and we all again AUS won that contract to map about 32,000 square kilometers for the state of Haryana. So we are already basically leading this front. So there are different stages of this activity, and I'll not go into technicalities. Rather, we will try to demonstrate. The first step involves is basically preparation of the plan for flying the drones. Then it involves collecting certain data sets on the field to make sure that everything is connected and the data is accurate. And once the data is collected, then the data is extracted from the drone, which is images, and then they are processed to generate maps. And once these maps are generated, the boundaries of every household are drawn. Then a team of government officials with that map goes to the site, goes to the village, checks with every owner whether the boundaries are correct or not, takes their approval. And then once that is blocked, they issue them something called a property card. And that property card defines the boundaries of their plot and its coordinates in global positioning system. So at any point of time, if the local land changes, anything happens to the village, nothing will move because everything is being tagged with the global positioning system. There is no local reference, local measurement at all involved. So no one can even manipulate that data. So the field activities involve following steps. So this is one of our operators. There are certain infrastructure to receive data which has been put by the government. So our operator puts a device which syncs with this particular instrument called the course network and collect the data for the position of that location where he is flying from. The entire village is also marked. Chuna marking is done to identify the boundaries of people's land, just like in this process before the drone flying happens. So either one day before or on the date of flying in the morning, a lot of village volunteers and government officials go on the field, do this mapping to define the land boundaries. And once the drone operates, we get to know where the boundaries exist. So this is also a drone image in which we can see these corner points are very prominently visible. And using these points, we demarcate that where the boundary exists. And then once the boundary marking is done, the flying happens. And as you can see, this is not only collecting data, but it is also inspiring a lot of people and the rural population to look at this technology as the next generation employment opportunity. And a lot of these kids in the villages are also now knowing that what a drone is and how it can impact their life. And many of them are even now thinking of conducting studies. And we're very proud that we employ today about 80 pilots, and many of these pilots come from these rural parts of the country and have got better employment opportunities and exposure when it comes to the advanced technology with us. So this is one of the data sets which has been collected, and there are different levels of zoom available. Once this data is collected, then the boundaries of these households are drawn. And then once these boundaries are drawn, maps are generated, the local government officials go on the field, ask everyone to authorize and approve their boundaries so that there is no dispute between what government feels is the boundary and what the owner feels, because there is no data existing to validate. Once everyone validates, and then the formal process of creating maps are done in the government offices. And this kind of Gharani report is provided to every citizen, which consists of the plot boundary, the ownership linked to the Aadhaar, and the coordinates of those boundaries, which cannot be disputed by anyone else. So before moving to the rest of the portion about AUS, how we are financially performing and what our relationship with these companies are, we have a team which is operating in Maharashtra. There we have about 15 teams operating in Maharashtra. Out of that, one of the teams is operating in a nearby district called Satara in Maharashtra. So I have my teammate Shashank, who has joined us from there, and he'll be taking us through a live demonstration of this drone flying, showcase how we do the flight mission planning, and also how do we collect data for the Swamitwa operations. So over to you, Shashank. Take us through the journey, please.
Thank you, Vipul sir, for giving us this opportunity at AUS operations to showcase our skills that we do on the ground here. Currently, we are situated in Satara, Maharashtra, as sir already told. And here with me is my colleague Abhishek Nautiyal, and behind the camera is Chandramohan. We will be moving towards the drone, introducing you towards the parts of the drone here. And we are ready to take off. The drone is battery and having 4 propellers. It is a multi-copter. It features a 24 megapixel high definition RGB camera. Here is the PPK antenna, GPS, which connects to the GPS, and this is the navigation antenna for the drone. And now we are ready to take off. We'll be moving towards our ground control station. Before I introduce you to the other parts, let's take the flight and then we'll introduce you to the various parts of the ground control station. We'll switch over to Abhishek. Abhishek, please, can you share the screen? Please cooperate while Abhishek is sharing the screen. Here we can see the position of the drone on the screen. Polygon.
For our viewers, easier understanding, since the team is joining from a remote area, so there is a little bit lag in the network. They are right now planning the flight, which using our ground control software, Skylink. The team there has selected a boundary of the area to be surveyed and has given certain parameters, which will define that how the data will be collected and what path drone has to follow. So all these parameters basically ultimately govern the quality of the data, and the rest of the activities are basically done by the algorithm. So the whole flight has been planned by the mathematical algorithm meeting the requirements. Yeah, over to you, Shashank.
Yes. We can see the estimated time required is 4.8 minutes and the altitude at which the drone will be flying is approximately 120 meters. And the area of interest is 4,167 square meter. And the farthest number of images it will be capturing will be 36. And the farthest distance that it will go from the current position is 162 meters. Abhishek, are we ready for the flight? Yes. He's sending the waypoints. Is verified. Now I would request our camera person to switch to the camera towards the drone. Here it goes. As it moves towards the first waypoint, we will be switching over to the Skylink software on the ground control station. Here we can see that the drone is heading towards the first waypoint. We can see the yellow patches where it takes the photographs. And it is heading towards the waypoint 2. We can see the satellite counts of the two antennas that I told you, PPK antenna and the navigation antenna, and the ground speed, and also the current battery voltage. We can see the health of the drone is healthy according to the satellite counts. We can also see the current time in air that it has spent is 1.6 minutes. It is heading towards the last waypoint, 6th and the 7th waypoint. And then we'll be returning towards the launched home position.
So the drone has now come back to its home location after completing the flight mission, and it's now in the landing mode. So it's slowly decreasing its altitude, which is the height, and now it is coming to land. So as you all can see, the drone is coming closer to the ground now. And it will land on its own without any pilot assistance given to it.
Vipul, I'm just curious, the entire journey that the drone made, was that all piloted or is it all like on autopilot?
It's autopilot. There is no pilot intervention other than clicking a button on the laptop.
Wow, fascinating. Seeing the drone take off, fly and land, it's goosebumps to maybe to see this kind of operations deliver. If you were to think about the manual effort required, if we didn't have drones to do the same mapping, what are we talking about? How many days?
Right now, I would say the entire process of see, this drone landed on its own, and in the whole process, the operator or Abhishek sitting on the field has only clicked a few buttons on the laptop. I would request the cameraman to turn maybe the camera towards the operator. So this is how the operations generally are. I mean, just using a laptop.
Just incredible to see this. One of the requests we have is it possible to see an image that the drone captured, or is that not possible immediately?
We can pull out the images. Meanwhile, I mean, I'll ask the team to extract some images which the drone has captured on the field. And they can show those images or the mission, the whole set of image which has been captured in the mission. Meanwhile, I'll answer your question, which is around the time which it takes generally. So see, that's okay. The field team can actually stop sharing the video and maybe focus on getting the images, and then we can share the screen. So see, today, if you want to do this,
I want to thank the field team for all of that. Thank you so much for making this happen, Shashank and Abhishek.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shashank, Abhishek, Chandramohan, for the lovely demonstration and coming on Saturday afternoon. I think because they are in rural areas, so there is some limitation in the network they are receiving. Earlier, the plan was to operate within the village, but then the network was very, very poor there. So they had to really move out a little bit towards closer to the tower, nearest tower there. Okay. So see, when you conduct a similar activity, it requires about a team of 3 to 4 people. And for, let's say, a typical village, it will take somewhere around a week time to do the entire survey. Right. Today, we are able to do that with a single operator and a single drone, though there are government officials sometimes going along to just facilitate the communication with the villagers, but then there is no effort which is being put for data collection by them. Now, the whole process of mapping a, let's say, square kilometer long village takes about 30 minutes. So consider that the unpacking the drone and then launching it and packing it back to move to the next village. So in a day, we map 5 villages. Earlier, it used to take about 5 days to map 1 village.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, for countries like India, this is exactly what we need, right? And technology, the role that technology will play will be so disruptive to our lives over anywhere else in the world. And it's, congratulations to you for what you guys are achieving and the value you're delivering to all of us across the country.
Thanks a lot, Nikhil. I think we realized the advantage which the drone can deliver to our masses about 8 years back. And that's what we are committed about, that we will deliver this. We are working with every possible stakeholder in this country, let it be villagers, the youth, to get them attracted towards this sector, or engineers to get them attracted towards helping us build some really good drones, or even the government to create a positive policy ecosystem so that these impacts could be delivered. Now, just to add to what you said, see, the rural population doesn't have CIBIL scores. They don't have bank accounts with there are regular transactions happening. Most of their life, it goes into cash transactions, right? And the only thing which the major asset which they own is their land. Let it be a agricultural land or their own, I would say, residential land. So the idea is to basically count the value of this wealth and enable them to use this properties which they own to have cash liquidity, and then enable them to finance the education of their children or finance their own farming business, or even start micro industry on their own without dependency on other stuff. So we get offers, right? You are eligible for X lakh rupees of loan every day, every weekend, right? Villages, they don't get it because there's no record about their financial transactions. So now they will start getting it. So there's a huge opportunity which is not only being created for the population, but also for the financial institutions. Look at the deficit which will be there for eligible borrowers in this country, and a lot of foreign investments will also get attracted towards bridging these deficits. So there will be a huge amount of capital requirement and growth opportunity which will come for everyone, right? So that's what the government is trying to achieve, a holistic 360-degree growth for everyone.
Perfect. Okay. Vipul, there are lots of questions from the audience. I'm going to move to that. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. I'm going to divide the questions into two parts. One is around technical questions around the business, and then the other is the financial business aspects itself. There are lots of questions about the quality of the picture, given that it is taken from a significant height, and the resolution that it delivers versus satellite images. Could you talk a little bit about that and throw some light on and what's the impact on resolution?
Absolutely, Nikhil. I think I will just revisit a couple of slides which I was showing earlier. Yeah. Okay, this is what a satellite map would look like. Okay, for this rural area, where this is again another village in Andhra Pradesh. So if you overlay the government records, nothing will fall in same place because everything is offset, having a lot of distortions or lack of updation. So when you replace the same data set using drones, this is the kind of clarity you get. Every marking which is done on the ground is visible in these images, which you can use to draw the line of the property. So this is the kind of clarity which we get. So the image on the left-hand side or the map on the left-hand side has been created by the drone. And then if we zoom in, we can actually identify each and every boundary and every feature which is visible on the ground. Look at this. This is the data which has been generated by the drone, this is the type of resolution and clarity which is needed, which was earlier not available from the satellite images. So I hope that answers the question. Meanwhile, I'll ask also the team team is also downloading the data from the drone. So we'll get them in once we cover. So this is just to give you an idea about our financial standpoint. Though being a public event, we cannot be very detailed about everything, but this is a gist of our financial stature right now. We are the single largest company in this segment as of now in the commercial use cases of drones with the highest market share. So we have been growing at about 250% in our revenues on year-on-year basis. Also, since the last 3.5 years, we are a profitable company with EBITDAs more than 25%. This is something which no other company in this segment has yet achieved, profitability and such strong EBITDA. As of now, as on today, we have orders worth more than 50 crores in hand. Our team strength is about 120 members. Again, we are headquartered in Bangalore. 50% of our strength is in Bangalore and 50% is on the field managing these projects, executing these projects, doing all the hard work required to create the impact on the society. Then with respect to our growth plan, we are expecting to become a 200 plus strength very soon, maybe less than 6 months. And with respect to the pipeline of orders, we have more than 200 crores worth of business in pipeline as of now. 100 plus drones which are operating and capability to process more than 1,000 square kilometers of data every month. So there has been a growth, consistent growth in this organization, even in the non-conducive policy environment. Now the policy has become very conducive. Hence, the growth which we are expecting over the next 12 months is going to be not 250%, but 400% in our revenues, because we already have 50 plus crores worth of orders. Most of these orders have been won in the last quarter. So majority of the revenue will be realized in the coming financial year. So in the coming financial year, while on the conservative side, we are expecting that we'll be closing revenue of 35 crores. But with respect to the current demand in the market, we feel that there is a very high chances that we'll cross a 50 crore revenue mark, which will be about 4 times growth. So these are some of our major customers. While we are doing this activity in India, we are starting our presence outside India as well. The problems which we are solving, the industries which we are catering to, these problems and these industries are not only India-centric. They exist all over the world. Any developing nation which has got significant investments and activities happening in infrastructure, energy, and even a lot of rural economy existing, agricultural economy existing, have same kind of problems. Let it be countries in the Latin American continent or the countries in the African continent or Southeast Asian region. So AUS is currently expanding itself. We are out there in the market raising required equity funding as well, so that we can scale up quickly. In that process, we have already started creating relationships with some of the most impactful organizations in the world, which includes GIZ, which works very closely with the United Nations, and have fostered very strong relationships with some of the large conglomerates when it comes to their mining, power, and infrastructure businesses. So this is what about our current journey has been. Just to give you an idea, some of the, just to take a case study, our journey with these large conglomerates started 3 years back, where for them this technology was an experiment. And our businesses with them started with a very, very small ticket size of less than ₹1 lakh in a year. And then over a period of last 3 years, we have reached a stage where we are signing long-term 3-year plus contracts with them with value of more than $1 million per year. So that is the kind of scale up which has happened in just 3 years with these large conglomerates, where we have scaled up more than 25x in our revenue potential or revenue commitments from these enterprises. And the reason for this is that we are the only end-to-end solution provider at this scale in this country right now. The time to value which we have been able to deliver to our clients is one of the best in the entire market globally. And we have been able to demonstrate scale and consistency in our results across the geographies and across the industry sectors without a glitch. And we have been very agile to also adapt to the changing environment of standards, policies, and expectations of our client, because the reason being is that we are the people who created this category. So we know how strategies function in this particular sector. And on the other side, we have all the technology pieces which are involved from either the hardware of the drone or the software completely being developed in-house. So we have control over the evolution of the technology and adoption with respect to the market expectations. So we are very quick in adopting what the market is expecting, with a very strong set of engineering and founding team in place. So this is a quick insight about us, what we are doing. And then I would tell you the philosophy of AUS. We started our journey, we got inspired with likes of Dr. Abdul Kalam and Jamshedji Tata, and with a vision that if we are out there to build a great nation, it cannot be done with a borrowed technology. We have to build our own technology, create our own technology. The cost and the time is definitely high, but the long-term value which is realized is significantly higher than that. Look at our space technology, look at our aviation, look at our defense technology. Anything you call it, let it be SaaS, let it be software, telecom. Today, we are the best in the world. Look at the fintech sector, because we believed in creating the technology for these sectors and slowly created a domestic version of it, which fits into the Indian requirement rather than borrowing something which fits into the Western requirements, but being, I would say, forcefully fitted into Indian requirement. So that's what we are all about. We have been able to do it at a very, very low cost, at 1/3 the cost at which any foreign technology would have been able to deliver these results, because we have developed it indigenously. So that's what we have been chasing, make the technology not only impactful, but also affordable so that its impacts can be realized at scale.
Okay. Thanks so much. And Vipul, great to hear that philosophy. Unless you have that right, I think everything else is less meaningful. I'm going to quickly jump back to a few other questions. Just on the business side, you're obviously funded by some of the best venture capital investors as well. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. So our funding journey started in 2016 when a few people realized that we are trying to really do something really ambitious and game changing, because for the first time, these investors were looking at someone who's trying to create a new category from a global market perspective. Because in 2015-16, such drones and such use cases did not exist globally. We were almost the first people to really talk about such use cases and such kind of technologies. So then subsequently, we got invested by funds like 314 Capital, Startup Exceed. Subsequently, more investors came in, GrowX, 314, the 500 startups from a foreign investment perspective, and a few HNIs which are very well known for their investment into some of the high growth, I would say, startups in the market. So since 2017 to 2021, we kind of kept ourselves completely afloat on our own profits. We wanted to create that journey because it helped us understand how to run a high growth and profitable business, which is a very difficult combination to achieve, especially when someone is in a deep tech sector, which requires consistent investment into R&D and upgradation. So we could deliver that because I think there was a challenge which was presented and a perception which was presented that one cannot have a deep tech company which is profitable and high growth both, right? So we delivered that growth, and then also we raised a few rounds of, a small round of funding in the financial year 21. Now after a certain significant milestones getting achieved and the market ecosystem changing, we are out there in the market to raise a significantly larger amount of funding. And as we achieve that milestone, announcements would be made and people would get to know. But from a growth perspective, we are aiming at becoming a unicorn over the next 3 to 4 years time, and probably become the first company to be listed in this sector. Because from the perspective of making an organization which is high growth and profitable, I think we have already created that track record, which has been very difficult for very known startups in the market. Even today, though they are unicorns, but they have not been able to prove profitability of their business model. So that's what we are chasing, and that's what our plans are with respect to fundraising and also going public.
Got it. Vipul, if you could talk a little bit about competition, especially from a light of the constant innovation that will happen in this space and how AUS will stay ahead.
Staying ahead is also being able to perceive much earlier than anyone else can perceive that what will be happening next in the market. So I think from that perspective, we have already demonstrated that we have perceived way before even market could perceive that there is a solution which exists. We have been able to create new categories and create that awareness among the market, let it be public sector or private sector. So I think that is one of the USPs which we will be continue playing upon. And then being also part of the strategic set of people in the country which are working closely with the government on enabling these technologies, there is always an advantage of which comes into picture, knowing that what could be the potential use case to emerge in the near future. On the other side, most of 20 to 25% of our revenues are every year dedicated towards R&D. We are one of the strongest technology development team when it comes to this sector. On the competitive edge, I would say that we are the only end-to-end solution provider. So we have either people who are trying to manufacture drones, and maybe those numbers will increase because there is now a ban on the manufacturing of drones. And then there are people who are service provider who have been mostly engaging consumer grade drones, which were imported earlier, to do basic generic services. So when it comes to doing a scaled operation, that to doing a precision and accuracy driven activities, there are a lot of nuances and optimizations to be done at different stages. How a flight of a drone should happen for a different type of area, what all elements should go on the drone when it comes to the hardware, and how do you make sure that the ROI on the drone is very high so that it doesn't fail at mid of its life. For example, most of our drones have operated in very high hilly regions of Himalayas and have completed more than 1,000 flights. So the ROI which itself we deliver on our drones is more than 500 times for any of our users. And the cost of these drones are lesser than the cost of a equivalent or lesser performance Chinese drone one would buy today. So we have been able to even achieve the cost matrix, which is lesser than the toughest competitor in the market. And if you look at the quality and performance perspective, then there are countries like US, France and Germany, which are making this kind of drone, which are at least 4 times more expensive than what we are able to create here. So that's the competitive advantage from the tech, from the understanding of the sector as well as the cost part. So when it comes to the sector, I think we have an advantage of coming in this sector of using drones for commercial applications 8 years back. People are right now entering into that space. So there is an advantage of that experience, the understanding of various small things which are required to build a strong business. Not only that, even the way we hire people, how we train them is also unique. The way we assess their personalities is also unique because not everyone can be trained to become a pilot, and it's not an existing skill set. You need to have people with the right attitude and aptitude to be identified from the masses. And then they have to be trained from scratch to become a successful drone operator and not make mistakes on the field. So those things and those nuances are something which is very difficult to understand. Unless you fail 100 times, you can't learn all that. So I think for anyone to catch up with us, they'll have to fail faster, fail at a very massive level, because we have failed multiple times in between and learned a lot of things over the last 8 years. So someone to really catch up in next 12 months, they will have to fail as much we failed in last 8 years, I would say.
That's a good way to put it. We're running out of time, Vipul. I'm going to just quickly launch a small poll. As you know, that we have an opportunity live on our platform for investors to actually participate in leasing drones to AUS. I want to make sure that I highlight that on this call. Unfortunately, 84% of that opportunity is already financed, but would love to encourage everyone to try it out if they enjoyed listening to you. At the same time, we're obviously going to be working very closely with AUS on various types of opportunities, including speaking to Vipul about an equity opportunity in his upcoming fund round. Vipul, I know there are other questions pending, and I can see more comments coming as we speak. We'll try to funnel these to you over email and respond to our users. But I just wanted to thank you so much once again for all the time. This demonstration has been absolutely fantastic. I think it's given a great perspective. And personally, as a company, speaking on behalf of Grip, I think it's great for us to be able to see the impact we are delivering in a very small way to your business by making the financing possible. And more importantly, the impact that our users are delivering by actually putting their money into projects like this, getting the returns, but also supporting development for what is critical to India. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Nikhil, for having us here. We always feel it as a pleasure to create more awareness among everyone about this technology and how it can impact their lives and a society's life. And it has been an absolute pleasure interacting with everyone. Thank you everyone for attending this on a Saturday afternoon and joining us for the demonstration.
Yeah. And if any of the, if maybe the right way to conclude is that if any of the polls we look at, 97% of the people responded to say that they will invest in this opportunity, Vipul. So that should give you an enough indication of the kind of impact that you're delivering to everyone. Awesome.
Okay. We'll have more contracts, more deals coming up with Grip. So look after that space.
Absolutely. Thanks once again to your field team, Abhishek and Shank. And thanks, Vipul, so much to you for making this happen.
Thank you, everyone at Grip. Thank you, Nikhil.
Thank you, Vipul. Thank you so much.
Thank you.